Good morning. Today I'm going to give you all a brief history lesson. And this is not something I've created today, but this is a class that I taught at Harris Stowe State University, which is a traditionally African-American university in the city of St. Louis. Go Hornets. I had the privilege of teaching law there. I really enjoyed it. 100% of my class was African-American. And I was able to give back the monies that I earned as a professor to my students, so I think it was a likable class. The very first lesson that I taught these young people was that the civil judicial system is unfair, because it is. So first let's just divide civil versus criminal. Criminal is a case that you can lose your freedom. A felony is when you can lose your freedom for more than a year. And civil means money damages for the most part, or like a divorce is in civil court. Your workers' compensation claims are a subcategory of the civil court system, and monetary damages like a car accident fall into that civil arena. So you've got criminal, which is freedom, and you've got civil, which is basically money. So Missouri set precedent. The worst case in American history came out of Missouri, and that was the Dred Scott versus Sanford case. And Dred Scott was a slave that was owned by John Emerson in Missouri. And Missouri, of course, was a slave state. In 1834, Emerson moved from Missouri to Illinois. Illinois was a free state. And then they moved to Wisconsin, which at the time was not a state, but was a territory. Eventually, they moved back to Missouri, where Emerson passed away in 1843, and Dred Scott wanted his freedom. The case was tried at the old courts building in downtown St. Louis that is glorified. That's famous for the Dred Scott case. It went up to the State Supreme Court of Missouri, and Dred Scott was determined to still be a slave. He was considered not a slave under Missouri State Court at first. They said once free, always free, but the Supreme Court of Missouri reversed it and said, no, you're still a slave. And it went all the way up to the federal court system, to the Supreme Court. And the Dred Scott case is, shamefully, a civil case. It has to do with money, in this case chattel, which was unfortunately a man's life and slavery. And the Supreme Court, in probably the worst decision in American history, said that Dred Scott did not have standing to bring the case. Standing is the right to be in court. And they said he didn't have standing because he wasn't a citizen. So on jurisdictional grounds, Dred Scott was still a slave. It was not corrected by the Supreme Court ever. It was corrected by amending our United States Constitution. So there is a strong history of racial bias and hatred built into our civil system, and it unfortunately starts right here in Missouri. I taught this class at Harris Stowe. We taught a whole semester there. It was very enjoyable, and I hope one day to teach again. So that was the foundation of my class, and then we talked about this civil system, and I talked about bias in the system. And, it's there. So it's okay to be conservative with your views and pro-Second Amendment, which I am, but also not to be racially biased. That's the way it should be. We should have a fair and equal civil justice system. At Cantor Injury Law, I understand that bias that's held by juries, and I try to maximize my client's recovery regardless of race or religion or sexual orientation. Those things should not come into play in a civil case. It should be the harms and losses that a person sustains from a car accident, or from a dog bite or whatever the case may be. And I'm going to give you some examples, and I know I'm going on, but I think you'll probably be interested in this. As part of our trial strategy, we sometimes survey potential jurors, and we can send it out on the internet to 1,000 people and understand what they're thinking, what this potential jury is going to like or not like about our case. And you know, it's surprising to find out certain things, like in a truck accident case where our client was severely injured. The potential jury was more concerned with the fact that the truck weighed 100,000 pounds and our client's vehicle weighed 4,000 pounds. That was like the crux of the case. So that obviously shifted our emphasis so we could talk about the size of this negligent truck and potentially get the largest verdict possible. Of course, that case settled for millions of dollars, but it's because we had done our homework. In other cases, it might be that you survey, you know, if we have a mixed racial child bitten by a dog, that survey, unfortunately, might give more money if the child's white than if we present the child as black. And no other facts changing except for that. And that is unfair. That's a racial bias that's built into the system. I'll give you some other examples. You know, in workers' compensation, you don't have a jury. If you get injured on the job, the judge tries the case and the defense gets a doctor and the plaintiff gets a doctor, and the defense doctor could be racially motivated. I know some of them are, or the judge could be, and that could be hidden. I'm not saying it is, or any particular judge, but it's possible, and there's no checks and balance, so that a white person could potentially get more money in the system than a black person. And that's unfair, and it does exist. And for anyone that says that it doesn't, they're wrong, because we can prove that empirically. So the judicial system is biased, and we're seeing that in the criminal system. You know, you can look at the criminal system and see that there's a higher percentage of African Americans in prison than white people, and people say, well, you know, they have all these excuses. But part of that is racial bias. You can't see it in the civil system because at the end you get a check. So at Cantor Injury Law, it's my dedicated commitment to treat all of our clients equally, regardless of race or religion or national origin or sexual orientation. We're judging the harms and the losses caused by the negligence of another. We're not judging all those other things, and lawyers shouldn't do that. Okay, that's not what this system's about. So I hope to teach again on the Dred Scott versus Sanford case and on the fundamentals of law. I am teaching next week on, I'm teaching judges and lawyers and anyone else that wants to join the workers' compensation fundamentals. It's an 8-hour, actually it's a 7.2 hour class including ethics. And you know, I'm honored to be asked to teach. So this is not a first for me, and obviously those topics that I teach on will be a little bit more intricate about teaching lawyers how to fight and win cases. I guess the bottom line is a call for peace, a call for justice, a call for equality. And if you or a loved one need a lawyer, I hope that you'll consider Cantor Injury Law. My office is open. Our number is 314-628-9999. We never charge a fee unless we win. I've been doing this for nearly 30 years, and I promise to do the best possible job I can for you. Thanks, and thanks for watching.